Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division in the Fall Major Tournament. All the courses is new, 9 new holes of the Eagle Peak, which you can find on tour number 8, the Mountain Tour. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Let's go. Check down in the video description down below to get the direct timestamps for all the holes here. So if you do not want to watch hole number 1, you can skip directly to, let's say, hole number 7. The important part to say about this playthrough is that this one is going to be a little bit longer than normal, as I'm going to show 2 ways for hole 6, 8 and 9. So it's going to be approximately 35 minutes long when it's normal 25 minutes. But it's important when it's new hole to go over them nicely there. You can see our opponent's shot there was a very nice approach. I'm going to talk a little bit about that after I make my shot. Max topspin, max side spin, we're going to add 20% extra to compensate for the elevation. We're going to play downhill. Yellow ring, just cutting the rough there on the left. Here is very important that we do get our ball to bounce in the rough and then fall out to the fairway a little bit more to the left. And that we are going to get if we're not hitting the ball great to the right side. So, and the thing that I do is that I do hit the ball great to the right side. So that is going to be very, very important for us to do so. You can see here I'm bouncing in the rough, but I'm putting myself too much to the right and I'm going to be like on the trees here. Our opponent did make a very interesting shot, and that's why I'm putting this video out there in the playthrough as a regular hole guide as well. If we do have the clubs that won't be reaching for the rough bump and we feel maybe the rough bump is maybe not the best way and we feel more comfortable playing on the side with some overpower, then we can play our ball with some topspin using the slope that comes like in like a downhill to the left slope, or however I can call it, and roll down to the left and then have a very nice approach towards the pin here. For the second shot, I do really suggest that you do play with a Saturn in your bag. If you do have the Saturn at least in level 8, you do need the backspin, because if we do find ourselves in a spot where we are close to the rough and we actually can reach over directly as our opponent did to play with our Saturn, then we can go with a max backspin approach. Use the beginning of the fairway after the rough and the bunker. Now you can see as I did hit that ball great to the right, I'm going to be covered by the tree a little bit. Then we need to play it on the left side on the fairway here, going with max side spin, 1 bar top spin, and then we need to curl it. No problem for us to get to the gain the birdie, but that's not the way we want to have a possibility for an eagle. This is, in my opinion, if we can make the drive correct, this is going to be a good opportunity for the eagle here. As you can see, I'm curling it a lot, and you can see I have a lot of margin from the tree there. So I really need to have that in mind if I'm going to play this, if I'm going to get stuck behind a tree before. A nice try, at least with the curl here, coming in very close to the pin. And but again, we need to be very spot on with our driver, so we're not finding ourselves in that struggle. If we do have tailwind, then we can play on the right side using the bigger part of the fairway to just gain a lot of distance and have a wedge or a short iron or a long iron from the right side of from where the pin stands to go for the pin there. And that is going to be interesting to see what type of wind we're going to have in the tournament. Something I want to say before we start with hole number 2 here is that this is a playthrough with various type of winds. I don't know, and no one knows except for the game makers, what type of wind we're going to have in the tournament, and that's why I'm doing an updated playthrough when the tournament has started, so we do get the correct wind and just really pinpoint on how to play that course with that type of wind. Hole number 2. Now we're going to play this one 30% extra. And 30% extra is a lot. It's a lot. So I'm going to really need to pay attention to, first and foremost, the extended ball guideline when we do have tailwind. With headwind, we're going to have the compressed ball guideline. 3 bars backspin, 2.5 bar side spin, and you can actually adjust this shot, yeah, in many different ways. With spin, you can adjust further ahead, you can adjust further back, but I like this position there with my sniper. And because I do have room for a gray to the left, gray to the right, and be way off with my brings, and I'm still not going to have any troubles to get this ball to the green. And with a little bit luck with the bounce there, we're going to gain that shot much closer to the pin, and hopefully make a hole in one. And hole number 2, again, you can see we bounce to the right, and there is an inconsistency in the bounce there that we cannot get away from, and we need to be a little bit lucky with the bounces there. But worked well, and we are going to go to hole number 3. Hole number 3 is going to be the first par 5 that we're going to play, and I do believe this is definitely going to be the easier of the par 5s, as if we're going to have, even if we're having a little bit of headwind, crosswind, a little bit of tailwind or tailwind, then we're going to be able to play on the right side. It's almost that if we do have straight tailwind and we're maybe playing expert and having like a 10 mile per hour with a berserker ball, that we almost can not clear the second fairway, but at least get so far that we can bounce on the second fairway to roll over to the fairway that is going to be very close to the pin. If we're having headwind, then we need to play on the left side, and I really don't hope we get headwind, because the left side is going to be way trickier to play from, as we do need to gain a lot of distance from the left side to be able to have a shot for the pin. But now you can see I'm having a power 3 ball, an X mile level 8, and I'm going to go with max top spin and 2 bars of side spin as well, as I do want the ball to come in on the right side of the next part of fairway, because that slopes massively down to the left. I'm not going to add anything for elevation here, so it's going to play, hole number 3 is the only course in the whole tournament that I'm actually playing without any adjustment for the elevation. So I'm playing it as normal, both shots here. You can see here we're bouncing where we want to, and we're gaining a very nice distance here on this fairway. And the more distance we get, the easier the second shot is going to be for us. The problem we have from the right side is that we cannot go straight at the pin many of the times if we're not having a garden. So I'm actually going to use the back of the green. Even though that is going to be tough to make an albatross, it's definitely going to be possible. I'd rather take that route than going to try the route that our opponent is doing. So our opponent is getting to the right there, and this is kind of a safe way to just secure and lock in the eagle. And for my own way, I do always want to at least have a shot for the pin. With a garden here, we would be having a little bit more backspin, then we could go straight at the pin. But I like this approach with the sniper, to be honest. We're going to aim up so we can see the ball guideline from the sniper pointing slightly to the right of the pin when we do have straight headwind or tailwind, and then we're going to use the fringe there on the top, or even the fairway on the top, to let the ball go up and fall back down. I'm going to adjust this shot for 4.8 rings, and I'm going to adjust it just as it is, no elevation adjustment whatsoever. Unfortunately, I hit the gray, so this one is going to miss on the right side, but you can see the trick with it. We get it up to the fringe here, and we're falling down, gaining enough speed for this ball to have a chance to roll inside the cup. But as I do hit it great, I'm going to miss it slightly to the right. I'm not saying that I would be dropping it and would be hitting it perfect, but at least getting a better chance for it. Hole number 4, another par 3. So we do have 2 par 3s amongst the first 4 holes, and here we do have 2 ways really to play it. If we do have a power 3 ball, we are going to play this one with a long iron. You can see I'm over adjusting almost 3 squares on the green here, with that max side spin in the side wind pointing towards the right. We need to compensate that one a lot. 3.7 rings, and I'm adding 10% to my adjustment, so 3.7 rings is included with max numbers and those 10% extra. Slightly hit it great on the left, and that will make me miss the cup to the left. The thing is with this hole is that we can play it either with a power 3 ball or we can play it with a power 0 ball. Why is it that, you may wonder? With a power 3 ball, we're going to play with a long iron, and I do suggest that we do play with a power 3 ball if we do have tailwind, or and then with crosswind we can decide whatever. Headwind, I do suggest that we do play with a power 0 ball. The reason for that is that with a power 3 ball, we're going to have a long iron. We will not be in between clubs, in between the long iron and the wood club, and that's the same with headwind if we choose the wood club. Let's say we would be having straight headwind on this shot. The Goliath here with a power 3 ball wouldn't be enough for us in terms of distance, and then we have to overpower, and that is going to be riskful. So headwind, use a power 0 ball to play with your sniper, and if you do have some tailwind. So let's go to hole number 5. Hole number 5 is going to be a par 4, and it's going to be a tricky par 4. We really need to pay attention to the fairway here. We do want to play and follow the left side of the fairway, putting ourselves past the trees in the middle. That's key. That's a key. We cannot put ourselves behind those trees, then the shot to the green is going to be massively hard. I'm going to put myself with a yellow ring, just cutting the rough there on the left. I'm not going to add anything for elevation, I'm just going to play it as it is. And 5.9 with the XY level 8 in max distance with the katana, it's going to give me 3 rings. Then I'm putting it up to max distance in the end, so we gain as much distance as possible. Almost 1 ball of curl outside to the left of the ring there we adjust from. And you can see we're coming in very nicely past the rough there on the right. And now we do have an open shot for the pin, but that shot is not going to be easy, as the elevation adjustment is going to be tough. Our opponent is playing with the rock, and that is kind of a dangerous club to play with if you're playing with it in crosswind / headwind. In tailwind, I do believe that the rock or the quarterback could be a good suggestion actually, because it with the ball guideline and with the amount of curl both of those clubs have, it's definitely going to be a possible one to do well. So very close to the rough, and then very close to the rough again, but at least it did the work, did get the work done, and are on the fairway. So now we're going to take a look at this adjustment here. You can see how much downhill this is, and I'm going to add 30% to this adjustment because we're playing this one so massively downhill. Something that the game makers have been making very tough for us. That's the same that that will be on hole number 8. But that is like when we're shooting so much downhill, it's very tough to zoom in, and therefore very tough to get the rings being very like spot on and accurate here, especially if we're using the take shot button. I'm adding 30% going max backspin here. We're going to slightly miss it to the left as it was slightly under adjusted with the rings there. But coming in there, getting it nice and close to the pin, this is definitely going to be an opportunity for us. But again, those short iron shots is not going to be easy. So if we can dial those one in, then we are definitely going to have an advantage over our opponent. So, hole number 6, and now I'm going to show you 2 different approaches. The first approach, we're going to go on the left side, going for the double bounce. 20% extra, as we're playing this one downhill. So we go, as you can see, we're aiming up. We're going for the first bounce on where we are adjusting now. The second bounce just before the rough. The third bounce in the rough to roll down towards the fairway. 2.5 rings. With that 4.2 going up, so I am in max distance of my club. And again, as I said, 20% extra in adjustment. And we get the first bounce, then we do get the second bounce, and we get the rough, and we roll out. And now for the second shot, we're going to have kind of an open shot with the sniper. And I do suggest for this hole that you're not going to play it with a sniper. You're going to play it with the big dog or the cataclysm. If we're not having tailwind, let's say we would be having some tailwind and then we can reach over the rough with like just a single bounce without going short, then we can play with the sniper. We're going to have enough, then it's going to be definitely be enough distance towards the pin for going for the sniper. But now in this position, and if we would be having headwind, we're going to have a problem, which we can of course compensate with going with overpower. But I never like going with the approach with the sniper with overpower, because again, then you don't believe in it that hard. At least not I. I do believe like when we are going with overpower, we can just focus and getting the ball as close as possible and secure the eagle or the birdie or whatever it is what we are shooting for. Now I'm going to adjust for the pin. 7.9. I'm not going to add anything for elevation whatsoever, so I'm going to play this one for 7.9 miles per hour. It's going to be 7.9 rings, so 1-on-1 for this adjustment. There is 5, and then we're going to go up to 2.9 or like 7.9, and there you can see there that I had to go with slight amount of overpower, and I also hit it kind of massively great on the right side, and that will definitely not put myself close to the pin. I'm going to miss right, but that is one way to and that is one of the 2 ways I do believe it's possible to play on hole number 6. Because something that I've already been getting a bunch of questions for is, what do we do if we do have headwind? Because then we can't reach over on the left side and we're just going to get stuck in the rough. And that's a valid concern. And I'm going to show you here my advice for playing this one in headwind. First, we need to then have in mind that we cannot go straight forward. We're going to risk too much, so then we need to play ourselves as close to the top on the right side without endangering anything when it comes to the rough and the sand. So our opponent's going to play there with a bunch of curl, like a little bit more than 1 ball outside to the right, hitting it massively great on the left, which of course not is ultimate. That will be very close to the rough and sand, or at least very close to the rough. So, but it works going to the fairway there. But if not having the big dog or the cataclysm, that is definitely going to be a tough approach for the second shot. I'm going with a Titan, and the reason I'm going for the Titan, not necessarily for the first shot, but for the second shot in particular. So I would also, again, for this particular play, I really would like us to play with the big dog or the cataclysm for the second shot, so we can play a safe drive. Let's say we would be having headwind for the first shot, then we're going to have some headwind in the tournament for the second shot as well, and then we do need distance. So I'm gaining a lot of distance here with my drive, going and getting dangerously close there to the rough, and of course an extra mile, which doesn't have that much curl, and that's the same with the Thor's hammer. The Apocalypse would be absolutely the best club to go with there to the right, but if you are not having the Apocalypse, then we of course have to play with the club that gives us the most curl and distance altogether. So now we're going to actually go for the rough bump, and that might look very difficult, but we do have an open spot that we should be able to hit. But again, this route only applies if we do have headwind. That is so important to say, because we otherwise going to play straight forward, and then we're going to have a more open shot for the albatross there. And if we do have to play on this side, I don't believe that we are gonna see that many albatrosses from this side. We're just going to focus to getting it to the green, either short or a little bit long, so we can secure the eagle on this tricky par 5. So you can see here, it is such an open shot there. The trees are in play, but we do basically have, especially with straight headwind here, is definitely a very interesting approach, I will have to say. And with crosswind right to left, it's going to be a little bit trickier as we need to be spot on with our adjustment there. I can see as well now I'm just pointing this one out and kind of not reflecting in that the wind is going to push us a little bit to the left. But getting it to bounce there, but as you can see we're going headwind and I don't want to overpower. I just want to focus on getting that ball to green, which we do, but we're not that close to an albatross. And if we want to push it a little bit harder, we can go with a little bit of overpower, or as I said again, go with a cataclysm or the big dog, so we do not have to mixture with any overpowering. Hole number 7, the last of the part 3s, and here you will be able to see me play on the right side. I kind of take away the left side completely from play. The reason I do that is that I do believe that, sure, we can play from the rough and do the rough bump, but it's a very tough way to make an hole-in-one on. And also if we do have a wind that is some slight tailwind, then we're going to have a problem with the trajectory, as we're going to drop down in the bunker, and then we're going to mess up the adjustment a little bit for us. So that is something that we really need to have in mind. So I'm going to, and also playing on the fairway on the left, that is definitely going to be a very tough one, as we do have a lot of the trees in the way for going towards the pin. So I'm going to go play right side. I feel I've been finding a very good spot there to very good spot there on the side. 1 bar backspin. I'm not going with any side spin whatsoever. Look at the ball guideline with the sniper here, that we're actually going to have the second bounce on the fringe, and we're going to have the white ring very close to the rough there to the left. And then we're going to play this one in minimum distance with 10% extra, as we're playing this one downhill. So we're over adjusting 10%. 2.9 rings. And then it's of course important to hit the perfect. I'm not going with any curl, just going to let the ball do its work. Coming in nicely, look how this green is acting, is rolling, and it's letting the ball fall down towards the pin. Worst case scenario, we're going to have a putt for like around 5 yards if we do miss the hole, but very nice and lovely hole-in-one there. And I've been getting very close on that one with the various type of wind, so I'm kind of looking forward to that one in the tournament. And if, let's say, we would be having straight tailwind, we need to pay attention to that we either will be in between clubs, so we have to aim a little bit further ahead and then mix her a little bit with the backspin there. So now let's play hole number 8. I'm going to show you 2 ways. One way where we're going to just play conservative, then we're just going to lay up here on the right, adding 5% in elevation for my drive, as we're playing it just slightly downhill, not much, but slightly downhill. Trying to get as close to the rough there as possible without endangering anything. From this position we're going to have a short iron, which is possible to make, but it's going to be tough to make. And that's why the aggressive line very much come in play. And I'm had to stop myself and not talk about that too much. We're going to talk about it just in a minute here, as the example there will come. So our opponent is trying something that I really don't understand, but I guess it's to just get as close to the top there on the left side as possible. You can play left side, you can play right side. The important part is that you do find a way to get past the trees so not have them in your way. So here you can see this is going to be a very downhill approach again. It's going to be adjusted 30% extra for the elevation. So 30% extra here, and I'm going to aim straight at the pin, but as you can see I'm aiming a little bit to the left here. And we need to have in mind here, we're going with a short iron on that fairway, is that the fairway is a little bit bumpy, and sometimes we're going to be pushed on a direction that we do not want. 3.5 rings for a 4.7, that is with 30% extra medium distance of my club. We hit the perfect, coming in nicely here, coming in very close, just a cup from the pin there. and definitely a shot that can be dropped there. But now I'm going to show you a more aggressive line, and this line I will apply myself if I'm having crosswind or tailwind. I'm going to aim between those two trees with the red ring like for 25% down into the bunker, and then we're going to adjust for 5.5 as we would be in medium distance of our club. And as you can see, I'm having an extra mile level 8, and it's important that you do have a club with a decent amount of topspin, at least I would say 5 to 6 bar topspin for this one to work. You can see here we're getting down here, when we roll down we just get it out to the fairway, and that is a little bit lucky. But the thing that I want to come to here with this shot is with headwind, then this shot almost need a little bit more topspin, as for the headwind is going to give us a compressed ball guideline, and that is going to make the ball stop sooner in the rough, and that will be giving us a risk of getting this ball in the rough. Then we can do as our opponent is doing, using the curl on our club, playing on the right side of the trees there, coming in very close to the trees, falling down and getting it out on the fairway. Nice approach from our opponent. Crosswind, tailwind, I'm going to go for this approach that I did every single time, because I do believe that it's definitely going to be a shot that is going to at least put ourselves to the fairway there. Now I'm over adjusting my second shot here big time. I'm going to miss that one to the right. But that is definitely a shot that we can't miss. That is a shot that we need to sink with that type of wind. A little bit sloppy, but it doesn't really matter in the regular tour play. But in the tournament, that is a must eagle. And I do believe, like from the second tee, from the first tee, then that hole is going to be a must eagle for those that want to win. Hole number 9. Here I'm also going to show you 2 approaches, and one of them is going to be to the left, one of them is going to be to the right. So we're going to start by playing to the right, and the right side is going to be tricky, but it's going to be the way to play if we're having any type of wind except for tailwind. If we do have like smashing straight tailwind, then playing on the left side is definitely going to be easier, as we have more fairway to play on, and that is going to put ourselves up for where we want to, as we're going to go past the trees and have an open shot for also pin. So okay, take right side here. If we do have this type of wind like crosswind or like crosswind tailwind, crosswind headwind, then I'm going to play with the rough bump. If I do have crosswind that is from this angle, then I'm going to play it from the left piece of the rough with 2 bars side spin, max top spin, putting myself in a situation where I'm going to roll out on the fairway. Have in mind that we do not want to over adjust the side spin there, even though it looks like we need it, but the wind is going to do the last and final push. 5.2 rings. And that is an adjustment with 10% over adjusting, as we're playing it downhill. You see we're bouncing exactly where we aimed, and we get a very nice roll. Let's say we would be having crosswind right to left, then I would be aiming on the other side of the fairway in the other piece of rough and doing exactly the same shot, but I do believe it's easy to play in the wind instead of against the wind, as then we're going to have a problem with getting the bounce out from the rough, especially if we miss great on the wrong side. Here you can see our opponent gets into the rough trying to go over on the left, then there is no possibility whatsoever to reach for the green in 2. So getting it from the rough out there to the fairway, that is of course something that is a must, but that is going to be a very tough approach for the eagle. Now you can see me having the sniper, wrong club, Tommy, but yeah. In a tournament play, I'm definitely going to play with the Cataclysm or the big dog to give myself those extra 10 yards, which is going to lead me to not have to overpower my, not have to stretch out my club to see where I'm going to reach. Have in mind that if you're just aiming a little bit too much to the right side of this fairway, we're going to drop in the rough and have a problem sometimes to get out from the rough. You're going to see how this ball is going to be reacting. And the reason I'm turning my screen around is because it's a hard time for me to see from the other direction. But that means that I'm coming in a little bit too much to the right. Bounce it in the rough. But from this distance, we are not going to miss that wedge. And that is going to be the most important part, at least get ourselves very close there. But there you can see how much the wrong club will do. If we would be having the big dog or the cataclysm, we would be gaining 10 more yards, which would be as the sniper would have been like almost max overpowered, which is a huge difference. And for this hole 9, the par 5, is going to be very important to give ourselves that room so we can afford to go a little bit short on our drive. Second shot there is actually played uphill. That's something that I did forget to say. We're actually playing that from the right side is uphill, not from the left side. So from the right side is uphill, and then we're going to subtract 10% to our adjustment. Now we're going to play on the left side, and the left side is going to be hard with this type of wind. But I want to show you that it is possible with this type of wind if you do like to play with overpower. If I would choose myself with this type of wind, I would be playing the rough bump as I did before and just lining it up like I did before in the first example. But to show you two ways this is going to be possible to make, but we do need to go with some overpower. Let's say we would be having tailwind here, then I would actually go full overpower there as well to drive myself over the first piece of rough with max topspin and also some curl to the right and side spin, of course, to gain as much distance on that second piece of fairway. Now we are not going to be able to reach over with this type of wind, so we have to play it by bouncing before the rough there. We're going to play this one slightly more than 5 rings, 5.2, 5.1, 5.2. No elevation adjustment as we are playing it basically completely straight when we play on the left side. Hitting it great on the right, which is going to give us coming very close to the rough on the right. But at least we are gaining enough distance here that we're going to give ourselves a pretty much an open shot towards the pin, even though the trees there looks like it's in play, but we're going to shoot over them. So, and here you can see as well, our opponent did try something there with a basic ball, and then it's going to be extremely tough to do something special here. I would play straightforward, just laying up on that fairway if I would be in this type of situation, and just kind of face it that I'm not going to reach for the green in 2. If pushing it too hard, we're going to get stuck amongst the trees, and then we could we can play a par, we can play a bogey on this one if it would be that bad. You can see our opponent gets in the trees here and drops down amongst them, and that is then we need to rely on our opponent doing a good shot there. So our turn, and now I'm actually going to go a little bit more aggressively than using the fairway on the left. It's that I'm actually going to use the rough bump so I can aim straight at the pin. I like to go straight at the pin if I can. Sure, we're going to drop down into the bunker here and get a little bit lower trajectory. That is why it's important that the ball guy line is pointing longer than what the pin stands, so we're not going short, as we're going to lose a little bit of distance. I'm going to play this one as 9.2 rings, and we're going to adjust it there in the bunker. You can see the adjustment getting slightly messed up there, especially when we have to brush ourselves. No elevation adjustment whatsoever. We're getting to bounce in the rough where we want to, and it rolls very, very close to an albatross. Would be cool to finish off with an albatross in the tournament. So, ladies and gentlemen, this was the playthrough for Pro and Expert Division. If you do have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Play Demic, so good luck in the fall major tournament.